They burned my $400,000 dream home to the ground because I wouldn't cough up their absurd HOA fees. But the one thing they never counted on, I'm not the kind of guy you can bully into submission. Picture me standing in what's left of my cabin ash swirling in the cold Colorado wind, glass crunching under my boots, and this smell, a mix of wet timber gasoline and everything I'd ever worked for, gone. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but let me back up a sec. 3 months earlier there I was at a community meeting minding my business when Brenda Hawthorne, the queen of petty suburban tyranny, smirked at me from across the room like she'd just scored the winning touchdown. She figured she'd cracked another stubborn homeowner that I'd roll over like the rest. But Brenda never read my resume. 15 years as a federal judge. You learn how to spot bullies and call their bluff. You know what I mean? I've sent CEOs to prison politicians to ruin seen more dirty tricks than a Vegas magic show. But nothing prepared me for the show these folks were about to put on. After my divorce, I left Denver hunting for peace, bought 5 pristine acres in Pine Ridge Valley, Colorado. Pure mountain freedom. Off-grid, no. HOA covenants on the deed. I checked 3 times with the title company. I built that cabin myself. 8 months of sweat and splinters, timber frame solar panels, my own well, the works. I wanted solitude, not a neighborhood watchdog. And then Brenda showed up. She's got that lavender perfume that lingers for days, white blonde helmet hair, always armed with a clipboard and a smirk. First time we met, she cornered me on my deck, shoving a manila envelope at me like she was serving papers. Here's your welcome packet dues. $2, $800 plus a $500 initiation fee. I just stared, handed it back, told her plainly, my land isn't in your HOA, Brenda. I made sure of it. Her smile wobbled, but she kept the act up, said they just updated their boundary survey, and now lucky me I was in the club whether I liked it or not. I said, that's funny. My survey from the county says different. Diesel smoke from the valley drifted up and her nails drummed against her clipboard, nervous. She warned me accidents happen to folks who don't cooperate. That's when I knew this wasn't about community. It was about control. A couple weeks later, County Inspector Jenkins shows up. Used to work for Brenda's husband Dale in construction. Funny how that works, huh? He starts writing me up for bogus noise complaints and septic violations. Keeps coming back with new issues. One day I ask him straight, these complaints all come from the same neighbor, don't they? Jenkins just sweats and says, be careful who you make enemies with. Real subtle. So I filed conflict of interest complaints, FOIA'd every document I could get. And what do you know? Every single complaint came from Brenda. 3 days later, she returns with her entourage, 2 board members, and a sleazy lawyer acting like my porch was their boardroom. They had a brand new survey. Miraculously, it expands the HOA 50 feet in every direction. I compared it to my stamped county survey, told them I'd stick to the law. They threatened liens, fines, you name it. When I found accidents happened to stubborn people in my mailbox that night, I knew things were just getting started. After that, the harassment cranked up. My phone and internet lines were cut, septic tank drained and left in a mess by Dale's crew solar panels, mysteriously damaged by falling branches with chainsaw marks, and the mail suspended for road hazards. You ever feel like the whole world's against you? That's how it felt. So I put up security cameras, caught Dale on tape, dumping nails on my driveway, at 3 a.m., painting "Move" on my mailbox in blood-red letters. That was a mistake because interfering with federal mail and utilities, that's FBI territory. Digging deeper, I found Brenda had falsified the original HOA boundary filings, claimed authority over land, never part of the association, and hadn't filed annual state reports in years. That alone was enough to void their legal power, but I wanted more. I called the sheriff, filed criminal complaints for trespass and vandalism, and reached out to other homeowners. That's how I met the Kowalskis, sweetest retired couple you'd ever meet, terrified into paying thousands after the same campaign of threats and fines. They showed me a shoebox stuffed with fake violation letters and threats. We weren't alone. This was systematic. These people were running a protection racket. The final straw came with a lawsuit, Brenda's lawyer claiming my cabin violated community standards, demanding $25,000 and a lien. What he didn't know, I owned the land through an LLC, my real identity hidden. I dug into their finances and found a gaping hole. HOA funds drained Dale's construction company in tax debt reserve funds invested in his firm months after their wedding. This wasn't about rules, it was about money and power. Things got ugly. Dead raccoons in my porch driveway, booby-trapped with nails, paintballs shot at my windows, moves spray-painted on my door. I documented every incident, filed police reports, installed high-end surveillance gear. 3 nights later, the cameras caught Dale and his buddies sneaking up with gas cans ready to torch my house. Fire department rolled up before the flames got too far, but that was it. Attempted arson on a federal judge's home. I called my old friend Patricia at the FBI. Turns out she'd been investigating a money laundering ring using resort property and fake charities. Brenda and Dale's names were all over it. We started connecting the dots. Dozens of families harassed into selling for cheap properties. Funneled through shell companies, laundered money, massive tax fraud. Patricia's team set up a sting. I wore a wire, went to Brenda's office, let her brag about her methods. Meanwhile, local media got wind, residents came forward, old vendettas resurfaced. When Dale tried to torch my rebuilt porch, this time with me hiding in the woods with night vision, the FBI was ready. Agents swooped in, Dale cuffed face down in the gravel, Brenda arrested during a town hall, her cronies hauled off with her, their lawyer begging to turn state's evidence. 6 months later, I sat in federal court as Judge Williams sentenced Dale and Brenda to a combined 27 years restitution in the millions, and their crooked lawyer to 5 more. Brenda's orange jumpsuit clashed with her fake tan. Dale looked like he'd aged a decade. And when I told the court, "There's nothing impartial about justice," I meant it. The media circus was wild. Our story went nationwide, and the Pine Ridge Legal Defense Fund we built now helps HOA victims in all 50 states. That's how my charred home became a symbol. Neighbors rebuilt it stronger than before, the whole community coming together. Property values soared not because of restrictions, but because people knew they were free. Laws changed states, started requiring background checks and audits for HOAs. And every morning as I sip my coffee and watch the sun rise over the valley, I remember they tried to burn me out, but all they did was light a fire for real justice. So let me ask you, what would you have done? Ever been up against an HOA like this? Share your stories in the comments, because if there's one thing I learned, it's that justice doesn't stop for bullies and blazers. The Constitution's on your side. And if this story made you rethink what's possible, drop a comment, hit subscribe, and tell me where you're listening from, because the sound of freedom always rings louder than any HOA gavel.